Hey there, listeners. Have you ever thought about there's so much noise out there? How do I handle all the noise? What do I do with all the noise? Do I really need to worry about all the noise? Is it true what they're saying? There's so much happening every single day that in fact it becomes overwhelming. Now the thing here is this: how do you handle all that noise? Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Hey listeners, welcome to another Ask Denis freestyle episode, which is an episode that happens once a week on the Leadership is Changing podcast. This is where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, experiences, and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. So what we're wanting to talk about today is along the lines of how do you handle all the noise? You know, we do have a lot of noise happening all the time, and that noise is seems to be getting louder and louder all the time. And we wonder, how can we cope with all of it? We've got the TV or the media in all sorts of different forms, whether it be on the news, on the TV, right through to even on different websites and apps on our phone. They're talking about the war in the Ukraine. They're talking about COVID. They're talking about pandemics, inflation, the crisis happening around the world. Now, none of that is to be dismissed, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, isn't it a lot of stuff to actually take in? Family, friends, and colleagues. If you meet up with them, they talk about all these kind of things happening at work, at business, even in your business with your customers and so forth. There seems to be a lot of noise. Now, we haven't even spoken about social media. Wow, social media, there's so much noise out there today. People seem to have an opinion on everything. Now, it's good for us to have an opinion. It is great for us to be able to debate things. But what I see today is we're not able to debate. We're not able to talk about things because people get offended, or people aren't willing to have a chat and talk about things. Debate is one great thing that we can do, as long as it's done respectfully, as long as we do it in a way whereby it's constructive and we're going to be able to listen to the other perspective as well as ours, and that they're going to listen to our perspective as well. You see, for a lot of people, they get wound up, whether it's political or anything else as well. You know, who's got into office and who hasn't got into office? Well, a lot of it is nothing to do with you. In fact, it doesn't actually affect you or your business. However, who or where should you focus, and how do you turn it down? How do you turn that noise down or off? Interesting questions, huh? So what we need to understand here is that it is all noise. It can consume us, but don't allow it. Now, that's easier for me to say than actually do, right? Because there is a lot of it around us. And so there's different things we can talk about. One thing we need to understand is that there are certain things that are in our control, and there are certain things that are out of our control. You can influence and do anything that is in your control, but you can't do anything that's out of your control. You can't even influence it. A lot of it is going to happen anyhow. But the things that are in your control, I tend to say that there are two things that are in our control. One is our attitude. In other words, the way that we react to things, the way that we think about things, the way that something happens, but the way that what we do with that based on what is actually happening. Reaction is probably one of the biggest things, but it's with the right attitude that's really important. And so you understand that, number one, you can actually work on your attitude. You can choose what your attitude is. Number two, we can choose our direction. In other words, where we are going next. And that's the important part. For a lot of people, they get stuck. They get stuck in a lot of the noise, a lot of the drama, a lot of the dilemmas, the chaos that I talk about. And that is all stuff that's very interesting, but really, it's not really going to help us. Now, the thing here is we have to choose our way forward. One thing you can definitely do is stop watching the news. It's full of negativity. It's full of stuff that may not be actually helpful to you. Now, you might be sitting there going, all right, Denis, but how do I find out if something is actually happening? I actually had someone ask me that recently. And I said, look, I'm not watching the news. I don't want to know. And if I do, I'm very selective in what I watch. They said to me, but Denis, how will you know what's going on in the world? And I went, you'll tell me. They went, what? I says, you will tell me, because you already are telling me. Family, friends, colleagues, people around me are telling me what's going on around the world. If there's something that's really important, then I'll go and research it. Then I'll go and find out more about it. But I don't need to be there glued to the news all the time to understand what's going on. Another thing that you might want to do is be careful with who you're hanging around with. You see, we become like those that we hang around. So select wisely. Select a group of people that you want to be around that are going to be uplifting, people who are going to help you move forward. Now, the thing here is for a lot of you, you may need to understand who is around you first, but also select a different group of people around you. Now, for some of you, it's going to be very hard to be able to let go of the older group. Now, you don't need to be rude or leave abruptly, anything like that. Never burn any bridges. But I think what's important here is that you select the right group of people around you to help you with your thinking and to be around them, because that's where you're going to learn. They're going to learn off you as well, and it's about where you want to go next. See, if you surround yourself with results-oriented or big vision people who are already successful, then it's surely going to rub off on you. Because when you hang around people who are negative, who are wanting to work around all this noise and they're really consumed by it, that rubs off on you as well. So you can choose which way you want to go. The other thing I'm going to say to you is this: get yourself a coach, someone that's going to hold you accountable, someone that's going to help you lead a bigger game. Understand that most of the noise is not going to make a difference to you. If you can focus forward, stick to your dreams and goals and plans, then imagine where you can be. I remember recently that I was with a group of people and they were talking about all sorts of things happening here in New Zealand. And they said to me, what do you think? And I says, well, it is what it is today, but I'm not going to buy into it and I'm not going to listen to it all the time. They go, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to focus on where I need to go, where my business needs to go, and what I can do on a daily basis to help my business, my clients, and that move forward. Oh, but what about? I says, doesn't matter. It's all just noise. What I need to do is move forward to help people. Because you see, a lot of people are standing still, listening to the noise. They're stuck. And when you're standing still, what happens? You tend to go backwards. Why? Because the rest of the world is moving forward. We know that one thing that is really, really important and to understand, that is, there is one thing that is constant in the world today, and that is change. Whether you like change or not, it's going to happen every single day. And when you have change happening all the time, if you're not prepared to embrace it, and if you're not prepared to move forward with it, then you may be left behind. You see, as I say in a lot of my introductions on the podcast and other things as well, that many leaders are going from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of being irrelevant and being left behind. And if they become irrelevant and they get left behind, that is hard for them. But you see, if you do focus forward, stick to your dreams, goals, and plans. Shut the noise out. Be deliberate to make sure that you stop that noise and you focus on what you need to do. Imagine where you'll be in 12 months' time. You would have gone ahead while everyone else is stuck on the noise. So as we go towards the end of this year, now's the time to not listen to the noise. Now's the time for you to get very clear on how you're going to bring this year home very strong. Now is the time for you to put your foot on the accelerator. Now is your time to have massive action out there and execute on what you're wanting to get done. Engage with a coach. Reach out to me if you want to work with me, because I'm looking for some people to work with me in the next few months. And so there are a couple slots available. And if you're willing to do that and willing to work with me, feel free to contact me, reach out to me. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about where you're wanting to go, what you're wanting to do, but also how I might be able to help you. You see, I can actually help people around the exec coaching. The executive coaching is really high performance executive coaching. It's whether you're an entrepreneur and you want to go to another level, whether you already are in a senior leadership role and you want to go to another level. If you're a high performer today in an organization, you want to go to another level, let's get together and chat. But there's this other piece I call executive transition. And that is, you may be an executive or a senior leader right today in an organization that wants to go to another bigger role in another organization. Or you're somebody who is wanting to leave an organization, or you may be made redundant, but you're wanting to go on to get another role, or you're wanting to start your own business. And so I've helped many people do this, and I can help you move forward in wherever you're wanting to go. But you see, if the next year is a year that you want to go on and move and change, you're going to have to block out the noise now, and you're going to have to start thinking and get clarity around where you're wanting to go. And then we can help you pull a plan together to put that action in place for you then to step forward into success. Hey, listeners, it's always a pleasure working with you and being with you and talking to you on this episode of the Ask Dennis This podcast is here to help your voice develop as a leader and to move forward in whatever you're wanting to do. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.